Hey, I'm Alex Ratcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is a recap of the 365 games I played in 2022. That's not entirely true. This is a recap of the 365 new-to-me games I played in 2022. Basically, for those who followed, I did a challenge video for 2022. I do not have a challenge set for 2023. Maybe I'll have one. I don't have it yet. But that challenge was that I play a game that is new to me every single day on average. Not actually every day, but on average across the year. That's 365 new games. I allowed myself to include expansions as long as I wasn't like, including 5 Marvel Champions LCGs as, 5 different things. So there's some expansions, whole bunch of base games, and there's 365 of those. This video is going over the highlights, the best of those that I've played, as well as some of the worst that stood out as, not necessarily worst, but possibly disappointment worst, and then as well as that, the expansions that changed the base game for me. The expansions that noticeably increased the base game. I played a bunch of expansions, some of them were good, not all of them enhanced the experience. These are about the ones that enhanced the experience for me. There's going to be a mix of prototypes and non-prototypes on this, and in terms of if you watched my best games of 2022 or my most disappointing experiences of 2022, there is some overlap, but not as much as you might think. For example, in my best games of 2022 video, I took a look at that one, and about, I think, 6 out of the 10 that I had are games I actually played for the first time before 2022 because of, well, prototype coverage or things like that, and so they're actually not even eligible for this list. So there's like maybe 4 that overlap to some extent. Either way, we'll go ahead and dive into this, but before I do, there will be a bit of a speed read here. I'll see if this goes. I don't know how fast it's going to go. I'm going to read through the 365 games that I've played. Timestamps down below in case you want to skip that. This will be no thoughts, no opinions. This will be no pausing for pronunciation corrections. This is just going to be me going as fast as I can. And I'll have the list down below in case you want to actually look at it as well. But in case you just want to listen ambiently on 2 times speed as I rapidly read through the 365 games that I played in 2022 that are eligible from what these other games are being picked from, then here we go. Starting off the bat with Seas of Havoc, Stilchin, Yucatan, Antares Kingdoms, Puzzle Strike 2, Microdoja, Dominant Species, Ultra, Pandemic Legacy Season 0, Brix, Pandemic Wrath of the Lich King, Capital Lux, Divi Dice, Motor City, Gorus Laxus, Lorenzo Magnifico Expansion, Small Islands, Mantis Falls, 10, Suspects, Bandita, Far Cry, Aqua Guest, Chronicles Grand 2400, Catacombs of Karak, 4 Science, Paris 6 and Expansion, Abyss, Santorini, New York, Claim, 3 Sisters, Marvinite X-Men, Trekking the World, Mercurial, Bus, Unsettled, Lagrangia, My Little Scythe, Pie in the Sky, New York Zoo, It's a Wonderful Kingdom, Wreckland Run, Kingdoms Forlorn, Tracking Through History, Iron Force, Ares Expedition Expansions, Bure, Doomlings, Earth, Unsurmountable, Beyond the Sun, Through the Ages of Leaders and Wonders, Mandala Stones, The Reckoners Expansions, Undo, Death Valley, Tiny Ninja Heroes, The Battalion Winds of Galecrest, This War of Mine, Machiko 2, Lord of the Rings, The Card Game, Tamashi, Rise and Terraforming Mars, The Dice Game, Cartographer's Heroes, Age of Civilization, Flourish, Knockdown, Earth and Disease, Flashpoint, Gladius, Hamlet, Bad Karmas and the Curse of the Zodiac, Flurfist, Detective, Azul Summer Pavilion, Warp's Edge, My Farm Shop, Marvel Splendor, Oriflamme, Flip Down, Sleeping Gods, Marvel Legendary, Quest Kids, Ratcatcher, Stella Dixie Universe, So Clover, Cryptid Duel, Leviathan Wilds, Project Elfiness, Age of Rome, Sebastral, Pandemic Fall of Rome, Found of Teotihuacan, Macro Crime City Full House, Panorama, That Time You Killed Me, Luna, French Toast, Quest Kids Expansion, Museum Picture, Welcome to the Moon, Get on Board New York and London, Canvas Reflections, Dice Miner, Skulls Settle Expansions, The Dark Quarter, Tenpenny Parks, Decorum, Martin Art, Trails, and Animalia, Brass Birmingham, Nightmare Cathedral, Slash and Spells, Jurassic World, Marvel Legendary Expansions, The Questfall Dorado Expansions, Viscount of the West Kingdoms, Almanac the Dragon Road, The City of Spies Expansion, Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, Viticulture World, Dead Reckoning Saga, Mountains Out of Molehills, Unseen Domains, Anasteer, Voyages, Spirit Duels, DC Deck Building Game, Planet Unknown, Knockdown Volume 2 and 3, Mysterium Park, Super Bundle, Juicy Foods, Animal Kingdoms, Arc Nova, Bard Song, Burncycle, Caverna Cave Farmers, Lost Ones, Viral, Valeria Darksworn, Euthia Failed Fate, Moonrakers with Expansions, Hero Realms, Genotype, Majesty of Dragons, Magnet, Undaunted North Africa, Tiny Epic Dungeons, The Honors Project, That Time You Killed Me, Bites Expansion, Foundations of Rome Expansions, Disney Sources Arena, Tiny Epic Vikings, QE Expansion, The Honors Project, Alice and Commanders, Elric, Skyrise, RuneScape Kingdom, Cyberpunk 2077, Kawaii, Isle of Skywrath Expansion, Sniper Elite, Now or Never, Wolfenstein, The Breach, Union Stockyards, Park Avenue, Forsaken, The Guild of Merchant Explorers, Lunar Rush, Septima, Endless Winter Expansions, Tainted Grail Conquest, Of Dreams of Shadows, Burger, Floating Souls, Misty, that's the halfway point. Legends of Hello, Steel, Coliseum, Tires and Dark, First in Flight, Dinosaur Island, Road Right, Wild Spaghetti, Bet Wilder, Wormholes, It's a Wonderful World Expansion, Minecraft Buildings and Bios, Prehistories, Making Manhattan, Bandito, Scout, Blood on the Clocktower, Empire's End, Cloudspire, Night of the Ninja, Brew, Heroes of Liner and Sea, Spirals in the Skies, Islamicide Rolling Right, Tidal Blaze, Manifesto, Whirling Witchcraft, Isle of Trains, Stars of Icarus, Tsuro, Kyperium, Rove, Moonrakers Luminor, Trust No Bunny, The Red Cathedral, Mortar Medieval Detective, Summer Camp, The Ship Arcana, Melodic the Crystal Peaks, Ascension Realms, Dirty Picture, Green Team Wins, Azul Queen's Garden, Isle of Cats Explorer Jar, We Didn't Play This As Either, Mini Express, Dune Imperium, Rise of Vix, Oathsworn, Star Realms Legacy, Massive Darkness, Barbarian Battlegrounds, Rove Expansions, The Red Cathedral Expansion, Expansions, Glyphim of Crimson Scales, Deadhead Reckoning Legends of Arcs, Dice Hospital Roll and Write, Dawn of Velos, Catch Down Volcano, Heroic County, Soulfish Fusion, Oceans, Compromat, Mystic Vale, Diceborn Heroes, Akropolis, Hoplomachus Victorum, Stardew Valley, Andromeda's Edge, Cape Mail, Sushigo Party, Ready Set Bet, Shake That City, Warship Expansion, Duos, Naga Parat, Stifling Dark, River Wars, the new one, Wild Style, Mariposa's Block and Key, My Little Flower Shop, Dice, Power Core, Call of Cthulhu, Roleplay Adventures, Warhammer Quest, Lost Relics, The Loop, Almost Innocence, Blitz Bowl, Age of Inventors, Fit to Print, 9-Minute Kingdoms, Shortfang Legends, Geisha's Road, Songbirds, The Snallygaster Situation, Moonshine Empires, Talisman, Fortify, Let Us More Chapel, Flux Cthulhu, Cryo, Small World of Warcraft, Boss Monster, Lacrimosa, The Hunger, Draftomat Records, 2000 Scoundrels, Street Fighter 5, Twilight Inscription, Dragon's Adventure Zone, Dune, Wanderlust, Darkest Dungeon, Catan Dawn for Humankind, Mystery of Sigilum, We're Sinking, Warcrew Adventures, Sparkrise 2000, Kingdom Come Deliverance, Copenhagen City, Redwood, Tainted Grail, Kings of Runes, Fire and Stone, Gaia Project, Relics of Magic Power, Veilwith, Copenhagen, Canada Box, Framework, The Wolves, Basilica, Exit the Game, Lord of the Rings, The Rocketeer, Ten Tricks, Dark Souls, Painted World of Ariamis, Civilization, A New Dawn, Formosa Tea, Dinner in Paris, Meeples and Monsters, The Warriors, Zoo Tycoon, The Last Aurora, My Little Flower Shop, Hairby Dragons, Pendulum, Hidden Linus Expansions, Ocean Expansions, Power Rangers Deck Building Game, Babylonia, Cantaloupe, Undo Again, Unconscious Mind, Horizons of Spirit Island, Marvel Zombies Heroes Resistance, Truth Too Terrible, Dead of Winter, Between Two Cities, Essential Edition, Cthulhu Let Me Die, Fear of the Unknown, Spirit Island, Branch and Claw, 5 Wars, Dreadful Meadows, Gods of Atlantis 2, Trek 12 of Elias, Orichalcum, Planted, My Shelfie, Elden Ring, Frosthaven, My Little Elvedel, Bad Company, Mechanical Beast, Runar, Gosu X, Joyride, Arcane Wonders, Las Vegas Game, which is not actually called that, it's called something else, I just can't remember the name of it, Kapow, Ascension Tactics, Pinpoint, Venn Diagram, Blockus 3D, Boop, Marvel Remix, Slingshot, Once Upon a Line, Stellarian, Happy Little Dinosaurs, Siege of Valeria, Heat, and Clank Catacombs. That's the list of 365 titles, which is mostly accurate. Fun fact, one of the games on this list is going to be Foundations of Rome, and I didn't actually have that on here. I don't know why. Foundations of Rome is one that should be on this list. I have the expansions on here, but I never counted the base game. As usual, I don't log all my plays. I try to track as much as possible, and things are missed. In fact, there's also a game in here that I probably should be including my best games of 2022, or best games that I've played from this list that I'll have to remember as I go through it, because I forgot to put it on this list. And with that, let's start off with the worst games in particular. These aren't necessarily the worst of the full 365. These are the ones that, as I was scrolling through the list, stood out as experiences that were definitely disappointments. Starting off with Kingdoms Forlorn. Kingdoms Forlorn was a very strong disappointment to me. A whole lot of rules, a lot of fiddliness. I did not like it, and I think a lot of you will. I think a lot of you will, because to me it felt very similar to the experience I had when I was playing through Aen's Trespass Odyssey, the prototype. Meaning a game that I think there's a lot going on there, I think it's very cool, but the barrier to entry, the barrier to get to the coolness felt like too much that I was not interested in. And I'm seeing that Aen's Trespass Odyssey is getting a ton of positive coverage from a lot of people now that it's landed. And so I think Kingdoms Forlorn probably falls in the same camp. It may well be a game that you love. For me, there was a lot of promise, a lot of potential, but ultimately it's a game that I was very excited for, and the story was incredible, but the rest of it kind of let me down, not one I'm interested in diving into again. We have Flourish. Flourish is one that is from Starling Games, and it's one that was from the creators of Everdell. And it kind of just completely bombed for me. So from the 365 here that I played, Flourish was a very strong letdown, as was Gladius from, I believe, Deepwater Games. That was a little bit of a gladiator style game. We were trying to vie for combat in arenas and felt way too simplistic for the experience it gave. Ratcatcher was one that I just struggled through the rules, and I never really got to properly play it. I tried as much as I could, and then I kind of gave up and moved on from it. We have Cryptid Duel, which was a huge letdown. This is actually on my top 10 disappointments video with Devin, but the Cryptid Duel is a huge letdown because it's not Cryptid, and in no way is it like Cryptid. It's completely separate and doesn't feel remotely the same, and so that just kind of let me down over there. We have a Dinosaur Island Rawr and Write. Now this one, again, I've mentioned in the past. I don't know what's up with this because I know my complaint, and I've mentioned a bunch of times, and people keep saying, whenever I've mentioned it, say that they don't have that experience, so maybe it's a me thing. I don't know what it was, but it's not just an opinion, it's a mechanical thing, so I don't know, so there's that asterisk around here. But I found Dinosaur Island Rawr and Write to be a game that the danger constantly shut down your park in many ways, and you constantly built things up and then lost almost as much as you were building. That's probably an exaggeration. You lost a lot of stuff, and I don't like losing a lot of stuff. I don't mind some degree of loss in games, but like building something up just to have it torn down by the game wasn't a particularly fun experience for me, and that was Dinosaur Island Rawr and Write. We have Serengeti, Wild Serengeti, which wasn't really a fit for me. I thought Wild Serengeti was way too ambient. Again, this is my top 10 video with Devin. Some overlap, like I said. We have Blood on the Clocktower. That was also in that video. Blood on the Clocktower was one that was partially about the experience, partially about the game. I'd say more the experience in particular, like the way everything's set up, but a little bit of it was about the game as well. I think Blood on the Clocktower is not the style of a hidden role game that I enjoy. I enjoy mod-free games like Resistance or One Ultimate Werewolf. I'm always happy to try things that are different, and but I think to me, Blood on the Clocktower built on Mafia and Werewolf, and those are experiences that I was ambiently okay with, but prefer the ones that are more the entire group being involved. And so Blood on the Clocktower, not quite as much for me. Then we have Block and Key. Block and Key was also in that video. Disappointments had more of an overlap. Block and Key was definitely a disappointment for me. Looked very cool, very excited for it, and then ultimately I played it and felt it was way, way lighter than what I was personally looking for. I think it's very cool visually, and I think some people have a lot of fun with it. To me, the experience just didn't give me a lot of fun as far as the actual playing of the game. And then lastly, we have 3,000 Scoundrels. Again, I think this is my video with Devin, but that was one of the very cool concept, but ultimately the concept was cool, and the gameplay was okay at best. It's a game about all these mixing of various, cards. You have an overlay card, you have an actual card, and then the combination of it creates 3,000 Scoundrels. If you have, 150 times 150, whatever the math actually was, and so you had a whole bunch of unique cards in theory. In premise, the game actually just slowed down. It slowed down the game and didn't add to the game, and then the core game around it wasn't interesting enough, and I thought it was okay at best and a disappointment to me. Those are my worst experiences. The ones that stood out. Again, I'm scrolling through this list, 365 games over here. Those are the ones that stood out as I went through as the games that kind of not the best experience for me. There are many totally okay games, but if I went through those, we'd have, 200 games that I was talking about here, because the vast majority of games are going to be totally okay. They're good to an extent. They're good plus, they're 3s, they're 3.5s. Vast majority are going to fall into that category. We're not talking about those. I'm talking about the ones that, to a large extent, were let down in some way. And then from there, let's talk about the shortest section, which is going to be the expansions. The expansions that changed my mind on a game, or that's not true, the expansions that significantly enhanced the experience in a noticeable way. Starting off with Lorenzo Magnifico, which definitely enhanced the experience. That took Lorenzo Magnifico from a game that I didn't feel the need to keep to a game that I very much feel the need to keep. I like Lorenzo Magnifico a lot, and I always did, but the expansion, I don't remember what it's called. Something Medici, I believe, maybe, I don't remember exactly, but the expansion for Lorenzo Magnifico really enhanced the experience, gave you a little bit more stuff in the game, and just more options as far as like a new tower and things like that. I really liked the expansion, and it bumped it from a 4 to a 4.5, really helped in keeping in my collection. We have the expansion for Ares Expeditions, which a bunch of expansions, but the one that really shifted things up was Crisis. Crisis gave you a very interesting solo mode where the world is actually falling apart around you, and I really enjoyed the experience that Crisis gave me as far as enhancing the experience that is Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. So all the expansions were good, but the one that's specifically over here that enhancing the experience is Crisis. We have Quest for Dorado. The expansion over there, I don't remember what it's called, the Heroes and Hexes. I do remember what it's called. Heroes and Hexes really took Quest for Dorado from a game that I liked a lot and made it to a game that I liked even more, which is basically what a game should do, an expansion should do. But I really enjoyed the additional cards it added and a few of the mechanics. And again, I always liked Quest for Dorado, but Heroes and Hexes took it to the next level for me. We have Moonrakers Luminor. Now, this is actually true for Moonrakers, all the expansions, but I don't remember when I first played them all, but Moonrakers, all the expansions from Moonrakers that were added from Luminor, which I really liked, to the other ones as well. I can't remember all the names of them, but the ones that expanded Moonrakers. Those very much enhanced the Moonrakers experience for me. Moonrakers is a game that I liked a lot when I first played it, and then as I played it more, I liked it a little bit less, and eventually didn't get rid of it, was willing to get rid of it, but I held on to it because I knew there were expansions coming that potentially addressed some of my concerns. I found there specific player dynamics that came into play with players who play the game a bunch, specifically in my game group. Once we have the expansions in play, I've enjoyed my games of Moonrakers since then significantly more, and it brought it straight back up. And then Luminor is ideally my desired way to play it, where you can play Moonrakers cooperatively or solo, going through a kind of app-guided journey using the rest of the components in front of you. Really enjoyed Luminor quite a lot, and then combined with the other expansions, just really shot Moonrakers up quite a bit for me. Then we have Dune, Imperium, Rise of Ix. This majorly enhanced the expansion for me. Now, I actually don't know if I don't think I read it, and I don't know if that was oversight or not. I don't always log my expansion plays in my app. I just log a play, so it's a little hard to see. But we have, I don't remember when I played the Lost Ruins of Arnak Hidden Leaders expansion. So I don't know when that may have been missed on this over here, but both Rise of Ix and the Hidden Leaders expansion for Lost Ruins of Arnak majorly enhanced the gameplay for me. Rise of Ix, though, more noticeably. Like, Lost Ruins of Arnak was over here, and the expansion took it over here. Well, they were over here. We had Imperium over here and Arnak over here, and the expansion for Arnak took it to over here, and the expansion for Imperium brought it to over here. I still like Arnak a drop more, but the difference in what the expansion did for the game, and this is not Immortality, this is Rise of Ix, majorly enhanced the experience for me. I thoroughly enjoyed Dune Imperium much more with the Rise of Ix, although I liked it a lot beforehand, just to be clear. Then we have Cthulhu Death May Die, Fear of the Unknown. This one I almost debated not including because it's mostly the same gameplay, but I really like the relics. The additional monsters I'm kind of a little bit more ambient on. I'll probably use the additional monsters that Fear of the Unknown that Cthulhu Death May Die brings you, but I'm a little bit more kind of like, okay, if I don't play with them, it's okay, it's not a big deal. Versus the relic cards for Cthulhu Death May Die, I love those. I loved having that additional thing in there, and you do have to balance it with the additional monsters, so there's a balancing factor there, but I really did like them quite a bit. I like having powers and abilities, and this gave you even more variability to the experience. So for me, the relics, again, I debated not including this as a noticeable change, but I think the relics ultimately for me are a noticeable and strong change on their own, forget anything else. And then lastly, Spirit Island Branch and Claw. I finally dove into Branch and Claw for the first time in 2022. This is one of my played games over here, and I loved it. I don't see a reason to play Spirit Island without it ever again, possibly with new players, but even then I can kind of guide the experience. I think it just adds a bunch of new tokens, a bunch of new effects. It'll take a few plays to get under your belt and mentally wrap your mind around it, like just do it so it's part of your Spirit Island lexicon, but I really enjoyed Branch and Claw. I thought it did an excellent job, gave you new tokens, new powers, gave you an event phase, so there's more unpredictability to the island. I don't see myself playing without it ever again. Probably, maybe, we'll see. Unless I play online with I don't have the expansion. There's reasons, but my go-to is going to be with Branch and Claw. With that, let's dive into the best experiences. Again, there'll be like 4 of these titles overlap with the best games of 2022. Most of these will not, though. And going through these over here, and some of these I debated as far as what to include, and it's a very hard thing to go through, because I was going through a list of 365 games I played in 2022, and there's a bunch more than these like 15 or so I'm going to go over now, a bunch more that really, really stood out in some way, that made their way into my collection, that I really enjoy, but I'm trying to choose the best of the best. But the first one I'm going to choose, if I can recall it, what was it called? Kingdoms Come Deliverance, because I forgot to write it on the list, and I remembered as I was scrolling through those 365 titles. Kingdoms Come Deliverance, I have a review posted that I have a review that I filmed that hasn't been posted, because the campaign, well, failed. And I'm kind of waiting to see what happens. I may ambiently post it one day in the future, just so you see what I thought of the game, or somebody might pick it up and then I'll save it for then, but I loved my experience of Kingdoms Come Deliverance. I loved it. The art did not pull me in the slightest, but the experience that they had, the app-driven experience, and it was app-driven and it worked well, and I think the app added, to me, it's kind of lined hand in hand with Isofaring Guard as far as the app and the experience and the audio thoroughly enhancing the experience. I thought it was incredible. I thought it was immersive. I thought it was I was so sad that campaign canceled, and I want to see them come back. I want to see someone pick up the title. I want to see Kingdoms Come Deliverance become a reality. It was an excellent, excellent game. From there we have Paris and Expansion, a game that I have been, Paris and the expansion, Paris Le Site de Lumière and the expansion, which adds more stuff to the game. I love it. I've loved Paris since I first played it. I loved it more and more as I played it, and it's one of those games that I just adore. It's one of my go-to 2-player games. It's going to be my collection for a very, very, very long time. We have Bus from Capstone Games. I have not played this enough, unfortunately, but I really liked it the few times I've played it. It's another one of those Splotter games, Splotter and Capstone, and it gives you just such a small rule set and such a meaty amount of things to think about within that rule set. It's kind of, if you ever played On the Underground, it's kind of like that on steroids as far as the core experience of what's happening and then how you manipulate the board. I think Bus plays in like an hour and a half. It has a short rule set and gives you a meaty experience, an excellent recommendation across the board. We have Foundations of Rome, which is another one that I mentioned this already, I forgot to log it, I don't know how or where, but Foundations of Rome, played it for the first time in 2022, and it's fantastic. This one made its way into one of my best games of 2022 in that video, but I love Foundations of Rome. I think it's excellent. I think it's your great polyomino game with a large tabletop presence, really pulls you in. It's a game I've pulled out again and again and again. It's one of those games that I've really tabled a decent amount in 2022. Very often, the nature of content creation means I give the game, 4 or 5 plays, I review it, and then I kind of touch it infrequently. Foundations of Rome, and not because I don't want to, just because I have other things always on the list, and I have my old favorites I want to go back to, and so a game like Foundations of Rome, I might review it, and then maybe I'll play it once since then. I've probably played Foundations of Rome 4 or 5 times since reviewing it, which for a game that new is kind of rare. The nature of so many games pulling your attention, but it's a fantastic game that I really enjoy, as is Unsettled. Great game. I love Unsettled. In fact, my most recent trip to Devon, we were going to play it, and then we didn't, and that was easily the most disappointing part of the trip. The part where we didn't play Unsettled, and we played other games instead, or just got work done, but Unsettled is so good. I want to play that one. Devon's visiting in February. We should play Unsettled. Devon, we should play Unsettled, which we actually planned on playing at your house and didn't. Then we planned on playing it at my house and didn't. And so this will be the 3rd time we're planning on playing it. And we have a big backlog of stuff we're already planning on, so we'll see what happens there. Then we have Age of Civilization. Now this one I debated including. For the most part, I tried to include games that I would rank a 4.5 or above when covering these best of. And Age of Civilization is a 4 for me, but it's such a good 4 that's not on your radar that I really wanted to talk about it. This is a small box game. It's not on most people's radar, but this is a small box civ game that plays in a quick time frame, gives you a ton of civilizations to mix up the experience, and plays both well solo and multiplayer, although I definitely prefer it multiplayer, and just gives you a fast-paced experience where you build out a civilization, build out a bunch of, wonders and civs and all these things. Really enjoy it. A solid small box game. It doesn't get tabled that often, but it does get tabled, and it's a small box, and it's a good game. Plays well at 2, plays well at 3. I think I played it at 4. No, I played it at 4 too. Plays well at 2, 3, and 4. Plays good solo, but I'd probably play it at the other counts first and play other games solo instead. Then we have Burncycle. Burncycle from Chip Theory Games. This one, really enjoy it. Again, my preferred go-to mode is solo, but I'm happy to play it 2 player as well. I don't think I'll ever play it above 2 players again, unless there's a really compelling reason, which I guess, again, when I was at Devon's house and Meg was there, we almost decided Burncycle might be a game worth playing, but not 3-player is not the way I want to play Burncycle. It's not the way I want to go through it. 2-player or 1-player is the way I would play this. That's going to be Burncycle. Then we have Framework. Framework is another one that I've talked about a lot. Framework and Akropolis, let's put this together. Both those are lighter games that I just really enjoy. They give you a simple rule set and give you a lot of ways to try to figure out how to optimize within that rule set. Framework's about connecting tiles and filling goals. Akropolis is about trying to, well, also fill goals, but drafting tiles and trying to figure out the most efficient way to build out an empire that's going to completely score and dominate your opponents. I love it. Every time I dive into it, I try different strategies of how to combine, whether to go higher or to go wider, which types of tiles to specialize in. Love both those games. I really hope Akropolis gets an expansion, because I think there's a lot of opportunity there for how to build it out, but I like both those games quite a bit. We have Caverna, Caverna the Cave Farmers, which is somewhere over here. Great game. I played it for the first time this year, and I played Agricola years and years ago, and Caverna I've had in my collection for years, and I finally tabled it in 2022 for the first time. Great game. Love it. I want to play it more. Like all the games in my collection. I want to play it more. I have the expansion as well. I need to dive into that. Great game. Very excited to dive into it more. Which I said already. We have Cloudspire. Cloudspire from Chip Theory Games. In fact, there's going to be 3 Chip Theory games on this list, because 3 Chip Theory games I played for the first time in 2022. I already knew that I loved Too Many Bones. That's not an issue. But then we have Cloudspire, we have Hoplomachus Victorum, and we have Burncycle, which are all Chip Theory games that I played for the first time in 2022, and love them all. And they're not all 2022 titles. So, for example, if you watched my best games of 2022, you wouldn't see Cloudspire, because it's not a 2022 game, but I played it in 2022, so it's making the cut here. And I love it. And I say from the 3 of them, Cloudspire is probably my favorite. It's probably my order right now is probably Cloudspire, probably Too Many Bones, Cloudspire, Burncycle, Hoplomachus Victorum. Hoplomachus Victorum is actually above Burncycle at first. The more I played it, I find Hoplomachus Victorum is a little bit more grindy in the experience it gives. Hoplomachus Remastered might change that, I don't know. But right now, I still like Hoplomachus. It is my lowest of those 4. Then from there, we have Cloudspire, Isle of Cats Explore Draw. I love that one. That's another one that might be a 4, arguably speaking, and not really technically eligible for this list, but I love Isle of Cats Explore and Draw, and I think it gives you the Isle of Cats experience in a roll-and-write box. I've said it many times, so I won't heavily go into it. I just think if you like Isle of Cats, I recommend it. If you don't like Isle of Cats, I recommend it. And I say that as somebody who got rid of Isle of Cats, and I love Explore and Draw. From there, we have Oathsworn. Oathsworn Into the Deepwood, which is just such a great game. I love Oathsworn. It's again one of those games that continue to rise the more I played it, and I expect that to continue to happen. The combat is the weakest part of it for me. It's not weak, it's the weakest part of it for me. Everything else, the story, the choices, the decision, the upgrading, the leveling, all the things, the team building, the character variety, everything's amazing. To me, the main core combat mechanic is the one element where I'm like, I'd rather play Oathsworn. I'd rather play, Gloomhaven. I'd rather play Isopherian Guard. I'd rather play a bunch of games as far as combat mechanics. It's okay. It's okay. I do like it. It's just that was the weak spot for me in a game that is very, very incredible. We have Hoplomachus Victorum, which you said already. We have Akropolis, which you said already. We have Roleplay Adventures. I've been playing through a lot of Roleplay Adventures. Almost finished it already. We're maybe 8 episodes deep, maybe 9 deep total, and a total out of 11, I believe, total in the box, so a few more to go before we're done, and then we'll have the expansion, Gull Packs Adventures coming eventually. But Roleplay Adventures, really enjoying that one. To me, the combat, again, very weak as far as the core combat mechanism is drawing dice, manipulating dice, and assigning them. It's fun, but it's a repeated puzzle that does lose its edge over time, especially as you get more powerful. But the story is wide and varied, and the choices you make and the pathways you can experience, it's very much a choose-your-own adventure, very well done, pulls you in a lot, and just really has you feeling the consequences of your actions in such an impactful way. I very strongly recommend Roleplay Adventures. I think it's an excellent game. It's expensive, but it's going to give you a very enjoyable experience that is also very, very replayable, with like totally branching paths of what you'll do the second time through. We have The Loop, whose praises I cannot stop shouting. Hate the box. I hate the box is strong. I'm not a huge fan of the box. The whole aesthetic of it doesn't really do it for me, but the actual gameplay gives you such a rewarding cooperative experience of manipulating different tokens as you try to figure out how and when to run your loop, how and when to consume energy to be able to refresh your abilities and then take those actions again. I love The Loop. I've really enjoyed playing through it. It's one of the games I just keep recommending, and Pandasaurus in general puts out a lot of games that I think are very good, and then I eventually get rid of them. The Loop is one that's sticking around, and I think it's going to be sticking around for a very long time. I already have the expansion. I have both expansions, also that little dog and cat expansion I got. They're all solid. They all are incredible. They give you scenarios and characters, and just, I love The Loop. It's become one of my go-to, just, hey, here's a fun cooperative game that I'll play in 60 to 90 minutes and give you a lot to think about. I play it solo. I play it cooperatively. Love The Loop. Highly recommend it. We have Lacrimosa from Deepwood Games. I need to play this one more. I've really enjoyed Lacrimosa. Sadly, it's one that I've only dove into once since reviewing it. Again, this goes back to that whole aspect where sometimes we have games we want to play more, but we don't always do. But Lacrimosa very, very strongly falls into those heavier Euro categories that I like. Well, not heavier, but like midweight Euros. You know, Coimbra, Lorenzo Magnifico, that style of game. Lacrimosa gave you a solid Caverna, for that matter. It gives you a solid puzzle of how to manipulate everything to get the most efficient engine running. Really enjoyed it, and, well, really recommend it. Then we have Unconscious Mind. Speaking of medium type Euros, Unconscious Mind, I have wronged that game so badly, because that was a game that I adored. Unconscious Mind. And it's not, again, it's not a 2022 title because of the nature of the prototype and all that, but it's one of those games I played. And I didn't really put it in my best games of Kickstarter, best Kickstarters of 2022. I did not put it in that video, which was an incredible oversight. I just happened to not have it on the list I was picking from, which is a shame, and I feel bad for that because it would have been in there. But Unconscious Mind is fantastic. I loved playing Unconscious Mind. I love the puzzle of how you just place your little workers and try to get the various bonuses and build up your tableaux so that as you place things, you get better bonuses. And it's such a compelling engine as far as how everything weaves together. I think I like it better than Endless Winter, but we do need more time for me to say that officially. Right now, I just really like Endless Winter, and I think I like Unconscious Mind, but I definitely like it a lot. Then we have one that might be a surprise to some of you, which is Elden Ring. Elden Ring is one that I really, really enjoyed it. The question is, for me, is how will I feel about it 5 hours into it, 10 hours into it, 15 hours into it? Because right now I'm 2 hours into it, which doesn't really count that much. Maybe even an hour and a half. I don't remember exactly how long. We had an exploration phase and a boss gameplay. But I really enjoy the puzzle of what Elden Ring is doing, and I enjoy the overall exploration phase. I like it a lot. I think Elden Ring is fantastic. I just don't know how I'll feel 10 hours into it, which is the big question for me. I have a similar problem with Skyrim, which Skyrim to me is a game I played in 2021, so not eligible for this list. But Skyrim is a great game that I love playing through, and I'm seeing people loving Skyrim, and I'm so happy that they are because I'm looking forward to diving back into it. I think it's a great game. I'm excited. I need more time. I need more time to play the games. But Elden Ring, yeah, so I'm excited for Elden Ring. I think it's going to hold up. It might settle at a 4 for me. Instinctively, I think it's going to be a 4.5 by the time I'm done actually diving into it. I do not think it's going to be lower than a 4. I really enjoyed the decisions you made and the constant take back season. Like, no, I think I can optimize better. No, the boss is going to do this. How do we react and plan around it? I like it. I am biased by the fact that I played it with people I enjoy, in a studio, everything's set up. So there is that aspect which always can bias you to a degree. You have to be mindful of that. But I really think I enjoyed it quite a bit. And then lastly, we have one that's not really a surprise, I guess, but Frosthaven. If I like Gloomhaven a lot, I'm bound to like Frosthaven. And while I'm not prepared to say that Frosthaven is better yet, I'm also not prepared to say it's worse. I like Gloomhaven, and I like Frosthaven. I've been diving into it. I'm like 12 games into it or something like that by the time I'm filming this video. And I really enjoy it. I've had 1 or 2 puzzles. I like the puzzles that they introduce. The overall building up of Frosthaven, I haven't seen strong consequences of that yet. So to me right now, it's a little bit more tedious and paperwork, but I haven't seen the fruits of that process we're going through. But we are going through that process. So I think I need, like, another 10, 15 games of Frosthaven before I can say whether it's better than Gloomhaven for me. Right now, it's as good as Gloomhaven with a few small elements that I'm intrigued by and I'm curious where they go. But overall, I definitely enjoy Frosthaven quite a bit because it's more Gloomhaven. And those are the best games that I played in 2022. As far as going through this list, not played in 2022, the best new to me, from going through those 365 games that I mentioned already, that I ran through quickly, these are the ones that stood out as some of the disappointments, the expansions that improved the experience, and the ones that I think are the best. There's a bunch of other games I did not include. Like I said, if I would have included like the 4s and above, it would have been an additional 30 games, and that would have been too many. There's like Cat in the Box and like 30 others that I don't remember offhand. But that's basically what we have over here. This is a little bit of a recap of my game a day challenge for 2022. I gotta come up with something for 2023. Don't know what it's going to be, but it gotta be something different, something unique. Get rid of a game a day challenge? No, that seems too much. I would get rid of a lot, but a game a day I don't get rid of. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And until next time, I hope you have a good one.